Arthur was late, as usual. He had a knack for missing buses, trains, and even the occasional important meeting. Today was no different. He sprinted through the park, his eyes darting to his watch every few seconds, hoping against hope that he might somehow make up for lost time. He sat on the park bench, fiddling with his phone, muttering about buses and their chronic inability to adhere to a timetable. His frustration was palpable, and he couldn't help but vent his annoyance to anyone within earshot, though the park was mostly empty. Across from him sat Olivia, engrossed in a rather large book titled The Practicality of Interstellar Travel for Beginners. She was a regular at the park, often seen with a different book each week, always something intriguing and out of the ordinary. She was the epitome of organized calm, a stark contrast to Arthur's flustered energy. Her serene presence was like a balm to the chaotic world around her, and she seemed completely unfazed by Arthur's mutterings. Suddenly, a rustling in the nearby bushes caught their attention. It was an unusual sound, one that didn't quite fit with the usual park ambience of chirping birds and distant traffic. A small, furry creature tumbled out, landing at Olivia's feet. It was an unexpected sight, and both Arthur and Olivia leaned in closer to get a better look. It looked vaguely canine, but with an extra pair of eyes that blinked independently and fur that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. The creature seemed just as surprised to see them as they were to see it. "Well, that's not something you see every day," Arthur remarked, momentarily forgetting his lateness. His curiosity was piqued, and for the first time that day he felt a sense of wonder rather than frustration. Olivia, ever the pragmatist, pulled out her phone. She had a knack for staying calm in unusual situations, and this was no exception. "I wonder if there's an app for identifying lost intergalactic pets," she mused. Her fingers danced across the screen as she searched for any information that might explain the creature's presence. Arthur watched her, a newfound respect for her resourcefulness growing within him. The park bench encounter had turned into something far more interesting than either of them could have anticipated. The puppy, seemingly unfazed by its displacement, bounded onto Olivia's lap and nuzzled her hand. Olivia's heart melted at the sight of the tiny creature, its 6 eyes blinking up at her with an almost human-like curiosity. She had never seen anything like it before, and the sheer oddity of the situation made her laugh out loud. Its fur, soft as stardust, pulsed with a gentle warmth. The glow seemed to ebb and flow, casting a soft light that danced across Olivia's face. She marvelled at the texture, which felt like a mix between silk and the finest velvet. It was as if the puppy was made of the very essence of the cosmos. Olivia, usually unflappable, felt a giggle rise in her chest. She couldn't help but be charmed by the little creature's antics. It was a rare moment of pure joy, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. The puppy's playful nature was infectious, and she found herself laughing more freely than she had in years. "I think we found ourselves a stray, Arthur," she said, her voice tinged with amusement. She looked up to see Arthur's reaction, hoping he would share in her delight. The puppy seemed to understand her words, tilting its head as if listening intently. Arthur cautiously reached out to pet the creature. He had always been more reserved, but the puppy's innocent eyes and gentle demeanour seemed to break through his usual stoicism. He hesitated for a moment, then gently placed his hand on the puppy's back. As his hand met its fur, a jolt of energy passed between them. It was as if the puppy was sharing a piece of its celestial essence with him. The sensation was both startling and comforting, a reminder of the mysteries that still existed in the universe. He felt a warmth spread through him, not unpleasant, but decidedly strange. It was a warmth that seemed to reach into his very soul, filling him with a sense of peace and wonder. Arthur had never experienced anything like it, and he found himself smiling despite his initial apprehension. The puppy, seeming to enjoy the attention, rolled onto its back, demanding belly rubs with its 6 multicolored eyes. Each eye seemed to hold a different galaxy, swirling with colors and stars. It was a mesmerizing sight, one that made both Olivia and Arthur feel like they were gazing into the very fabric of the universe. "It seems quite taken with you both," a voice startled them. They turned to see who had spoken, their hearts racing from the unexpected interruption. The voice had a calming quality, one that immediately put them at ease despite their initial surprise. An elderly gentleman with a neatly trimmed beard and a twinkle in his eye stood by the path, observing them. He had an air of wisdom about him, as if he had seen many such wonders in his lifetime. His presence was reassuring, and Olivia felt a sense of familiarity, even though she was certain she had never met him before. "There's a star pup, you know," he said, his voice filled with a kind of reverence. "They're rare creatures, full of magic. Not many people get to see one, let alone touch one." His words hung in the air, adding a layer of mystique to the already surreal experience. Rare creatures, full of magic. The elderly man's words echoed in their minds as they looked back at the puppy, now contentedly lying in Olivia's lap. It was a moment they would never forget, a celestial surprise that had brought a touch of magic into their lives. Olivia, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow. "Magic, you say? Perhaps a bit of space dust affecting your perception?" The old man chuckled. "You'll see. They have a way of bringing people together, those star pups." He winked and ambled off down the path, leaving Arthur and Olivia with the enigmatic puppy and a growing sense of wonder. Arthur, ever the optimist, was already smitten. "A star pup, you say? Well, we can't just leave it here. We'll need to find it a nice nebula to sleep in and some cosmic kibble." Olivia, though trying to maintain her usual composure, couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. "One step at a time, Arthur. First we find out if it eats regular biscuits." They decided to call the puppy Comet. It quickly became a regular fixture in their lives. Olivia, despite her initial reservations, found herself charmed by Comet's playful antics. The puppy had a knack for snuggling into her lap just as she was about to delve into a particularly complex astrophysics equation. Arthur, naturally, was besotted. He took Comet for walks in the park, much to the amusement of their neighbours. Comet, being no ordinary canine, had a tendency to chase squirrels up trees and then vanish, reappearing moments later perched on a branch, licking its paw with an air of nonchalance. Section 5, an unlikely bond. As the weeks passed, a peculiar thing happened. Arthur and Olivia, two people who seemingly had nothing in common, found themselves drawn together by their shared responsibility for Comet. They began to see each other in a new light. Olivia, who had initially found Arthur's rambling thoughts endearing but a tad overwhelming, began to appreciate his kindness and infectious laughter. Arthur, in turn, saw past Olivia's organized exterior and admired her sharp intellect and quiet strength. Section 6. A Walk to Remember. One evening, while walking Comet in the park, Arthur and Olivia found themselves beneath a sky ablaze with stars. Comet, sensing something, sat down at their feet and gazed up at the cosmos, its fur shimmering with an even brighter intensity. Arthur, caught in the moment, turned to Olivia. "You know," he began, "when I first met you, I thought you were the most fascinating and intimidating woman I'd ever encountered." Olivia laughed. A soft, melodious sound. "And I thought you were charmingly eccentric, but perhaps a bit too scattered for my tastes." Section 7. The Revelation. "And yet," Arthur continued, "here we are, walking a dog from another galaxy, a creature so foreign yet so familiar, and somehow it feels perfectly normal. It's as if Comet has always been a part of our lives, seamlessly blending into our everyday routine." He reached out and took Olivia's hand, his heart pounding. Olivia didn't pull away. Instead, she squeezed his hand gently, a silent affirmation of their shared journey. Instead, she met his gaze, her eyes sparkling brighter than the stars above. In that moment, Arthur felt a connection that transcended words, a bond forged in the unlikeliest of circumstances. "Perhaps," she said softly, "Comet has a way of rearranging our perception of normal. Maybe it's not just about the extraordinary, but about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary." At that moment, as if on cue, Comet jumped up and licked Arthur's face, then Olivia's. The playful gesture broke the tension, filling the air with laughter. A wave of warmth washed over them, a comforting presence that seemed to emanate from Comet. It was as if the little alien dog was a bridge, connecting their hearts in ways they hadn't anticipated. And suddenly it all became clear. The reason for their growing closeness, the unspoken feelings bubbling to the surface, it was more than just companionship. The reason for their growing closeness, the unspoken feelings bubbling to the surface. It was more than just companionship. It was a deeper connection, a realization that they were meant to be more than just friends. the unspoken feelings bubbling to the surface. It wasn't just the shared responsibility of caring for an alien puppy, it was the realization that their lives were intertwined in ways they hadn't fully understood until now. It wasn't just the shared responsibility of caring for an alien puppy. It was Comet's magic subtly at work, weaving its spell. The little creature had brought them together, showing them the beauty of their bond. It was Comet's magic, subtly at work, weaving its spell. The little creature had brought them together, showing them the beauty of their bond. In the end, it wasn't just about an alien pet, it was about discovering the extraordinary in each other. Section 8. Gratitude for the unexpected. Arthur and Olivia looked at each other, their hearts full of warmth and a newfound understanding. They were in love, and it was as wonderful and terrifying as anything they had ever experienced. They owed it all to Comet, their little intergalactic matchmaker. Bending down, they showered the star pup with affection, their laughter echoing through the quiet park. "Thank you," Olivia whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Arthur nodded, his grin wider than the Milky Way. Who knew a lost alien puppy would lead us to this? Section 9. Epilogue. Love, Laughter and Leashes. Years later, Arthur and Olivia were happily married, their love story a legend whispered among the local dog walkers. Comet, their beloved pet and the catalyst for their cosmic connection, remained by their side, its fur still shimmering with otherworldly magic. They learned to navigate the challenges of interstellar pet ownership, the occasional accidental teleportation incident, and the constant need to replenish Comet's supply of space squid treats. But through it all, their love for each other and for their extraordinary pet only grew stronger. After all, they had a love story that was truly out of this world.